Assalamu alaikum everyone, my name is Emin and today I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you on the second most popular video on Apostate Prophet's channel that is called Who Really Wrote the Quran?
Hi everyone and welcome, this is the Apostate Prophet. When talking about Islam, especially if someone is newly introduced to Islam, there is always this question: who wrote the Quran? How did it come into existence?
Is AP going to say that the Quraysh wrote it as a tribe? Or perhaps it was an anonymous author? Or maybe it was the Jews of Medina?
But the question was, who wrote the Quran, right? If you follow Islam blindly, the answer is Allah wrote it. What? If you don't follow the Quran, you should know the fact that the Quran was written by multiple people a quite long period, which is a weird thing for a book that is supposed to be Almighty Allah's direct word.
Actually, the orthodox Muslim opinion is that the Quran was written down by multiple people over a long period of time. As Ridwan al-Khaddab says in his video, the Quran was revealed over a period of 20 years. Then the Quran was compiled by Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Then it was recompiled during the time of Uthman radiallahu anhu into the Qurayshi dialect. This isn't something controversial. In fact, this is the Muslim standard view. I don't see the point of Ridwan's video.
The different ways of reading the Quran can change the meaning minimally or very much. Most Muslims only trust in the current version of the Quran because that one was declared by Uthman to be supreme, a human, a regular Muslim and political ruler, 20 years after Muhammad's death. That's why Islamic teachers prefer not to teach their Muslim students transparently and clearly about this. But that's why you have me.
Actually, no, this material is taught in all Quranic science classes. Never mind that, here's the issue. AP does not have a problem with the authorship of the Quran. He has an issue with the way of the preservation.
That's not all. According to Islamic belief, even after this happened, there was not one single form of the Quran. There were so many different ones, with verses varying among the owners. Also, Arabic was not a strong and unitary language. There were many different dialects and ways to read a text, and since Arabic didn't have very well outlined rules back then, the scribes and the readers had their own versions of the Quran. That's why a task was initiated, most probably by Uthman, the third caliph, to unify the Quran by creating one canonized form of the Quran which would overrule all other Qurans. The purpose was to create specifications of vowels and diacritical points in accordance with one specific dialect of Arabic, so that the Quran cannot be understood differently by reading it differently.
That's interesting. So AP pretty much says what Islamic scholarship has been saying for the past, ever since Islamic scholarship pretty much exists.
From an objective point of view, especially among historians, you would never trust the authenticity of something that was brought together by one person from completely unknown origins, and then later on turned into a huge book by, again, multiple other people. Considering that we are talking about Arabia in the 600s, it's even less credible, because Arabia didn't have a history of credible reports and books. But in Islam, you could view this as a miracle, because it's certainly not believable, it's certainly not trustworthy.
So one of the main points that I'm actually making here is the fact that Ridwan's video is titled about authorship. It is not about preservation, and yet throughout the video he only talks about preservation, conflating between the two. This is one of the main fallacies that he makes. Moreover, he is completely ignorant about Quranic sciences and everything and anything related to them. Allow me to provide you with some examples.
Urged Abu Bakr to compile the Quran. Abu Bakr then gave a man called Zayd ibn Thabit, who was Muhammad's scribe.
Zayd ibn Thabit. Thabit, not Thabit. AP doesn't even know how to pronounce the name of the man who compiled the Quran, let alone how to pronounce any word of the Quran itself.
In Arabic, a word can be spelled the exact same way, but can have a different outcome as meaning depending on how you read it. Look at this, for example. All of these are spelled the same way, but have different meanings. The vowel indicators and diacritics define the meanings.
What's he on about here? These are the same exact words, with different cases. Now, cases in Arabic grammar do not change the meaning of the word. They simply fit into different categorical grammatical structures. How can we expect from AP to teach us anything about Ulum al-Quran when he doesn't even know the basics of Arabic language? Naturally though, throughout the entirety of his video, he failed to provide a single example of a verse or a word that was not recited by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ by himself directly.
Uthman wanted to prevent this and created a final canonized supreme version of the Quran in order to burn all other copies. According to Islam, not all of the copies were burned, because some refused to burn the copies and others just went unnoticed. That's why there are still different versions of the Quran alive today.
Wrong again. All the Masahif that are written today, such as Hafs or Warsh or Ad-Duri and etc., are based on the same Uthmanic script that he's talking about. This is a basic error. But what can you expect from a person that is ignorant of the subject itself? Links to videos that have a more thorough explanation of these issues are going to be provided in the description below.